What if the true dangers of plastic pollution extend deeper below the ocean's surface? Have you ever wondered about the hidden impacts plastic waste wreaks upon marine life beneath the waves? In this episode, we dive down to examine the insidious harms caused by plastic that remain invisible from shore. The surface waters of the Pacific Ocean are choked with trash, but plastic permeates all levels of the marine ecosystem, from the sunlit upper layers down into the dark abyssal plains. The consequences of this contamination spread across microscopic levels to the mightiest creatures in the sea. Let's follow a plastic grocery bag as it descends through the ocean depths and unravels the threats we cannot see. This ordinary item will reveal how the spread of plastics invisibly alters the oceans upon which all life depends. Our plastic bag is swept out from a storm drain into the coastal waters. It slowly drifts further offshore, salt water and UV rays breaking it down into smaller fragments. Seabirds, fish, and sea turtles mistake these plastic bits for food or get entangled. The bag is carried into the twilight zone 3,000 feet down, where less sunlight penetrates but plastic persists. Here, the bag is ingested by small lanternfish and other organisms. These mid-level feeders pass plastic up the food chain to predators like tuna, swordfish, and mahi-mahi. Studies have found over half of mesopelagic fish sampled contain plastic fibers filling their stomachs. Early research suggests this hampers their ability to absorb nutrition and avoid predators. The bag fragments cloud the intermediate depths like smog, accumulating up the food web. Filter feeders like whale sharks and manta rays indirectly consume the microscopic plastic debris concentrated here. Even in near total darkness, the bag continues descending into the deep scattering layer over 9,000 feet down. This is the largest habitat on Earth, yet plastic waste has permeated even these aphotic regions. Marine snow, organic debris, and dead organisms also carry plastics into the depths as they sink. Here, the garbage patch invisibly metastasizes across the ocean floor. Bottom-dwelling creatures ingest sediment laced with plastics that have settled miles down through the water column. Giant deep-sea amphipods and other bioluminescent organisms have been found riddled with microplastics. The contamination reaches the bottom of the food chain. Our bag drifts down into an underwater canyon where strong currents sweep plastic waste into the trenches. Plastic fibers and polymers entangle delicate deep-sea corals, some over 4,000 years old, suffocating these fragile habitats. Microplastics have been discovered in the stomachs of shrimp and other organisms in the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth. No crevice is too remote for this toxic infiltration. The entire ocean column, from the photic zones to the benthic depths, is saturated by masses of synthetic waste that choke, foul, and disrupt the balance of life. But how exactly do these plastics unleash their insidious harms upon marine organisms? The dangers are complex, accumulative, and often unseen. For one, plastics leach toxic chemical additives like plasticizers and flame retardants that are cancer-causing and developmentally damaging. These toxins make their way into the tissue of fish, and by extension, any predator or human consumer up the chain. Plastics also absorb other persistent organic pollutants like DDT and PCBs already present in ocean water. These notorious chemicals were banned decades ago, but still persist in the environment, liable to contaminate any synthetic debris. The toxins then desorb inside organisms upon ingestion of microplastics, delivering concentrated doses. But toxicity is only part of the problem. The sheer physical presence of plastic debris presents a hazardous obstacle course for marine life. Entanglement in plastic fishing lines, nets, and packaging leads to injury, strangulation, and death for seals, turtles, and birds. Ingestion of plastic shards damages the digestive tracts and clogs the stomachs of fish, seabirds, and whales. What's more, plastics facilitate invasive species traveling on drifting debris across ocean regions. And when marine organisms die from plastic impacts, their decomposing carcasses may leach toxins that acidify localized environments. The chain of consequences spreads in myriad complex ways across the marine food web. Plastic waste alters marine habitats at microscopic through megafaunal levels. But the true scope of this biological harm remains difficult to diagnose. The oceans are vast and deep, their living networks intertwined and delicately balanced through eons. Like an invasive species, plastic has infiltrated marine ecosystems down to the deepest trenches. Yet we've only begun understanding how pervasive and pathogenic this contamination has become. The hazards revealed so far should resound as warning bells. But deeper impacts surely run beneath the surface, beyond where the eye can see. There are only more questions to be asked, and darker discoveries to be made. How exactly do toxins bioaccumulate up the food chain into seafood we consume? Is the decline of plankton disrupting a vital food source all marine life depends on? Have entire deep ocean habitats been irreparably damaged by plastic smothering fragile corals? What happens if the seafloor becomes too toxic to sustain life? How far do ripples of harm travel across ocean currents from plastic hotspots? Have we already passed dangerous tipping points for whole marine ecosystems? The oceans encompass over 70% of our planet and sustain all life on Earth. Yet we have flooded them with a durable, toxic contaminant with impacts we do not fully grasp. This epidemic extends from shorelines, harbors, and surface waters down to unseen depths populated by alien creatures. But the plastic tide rises upon us all. Out of sight must not mean out of mind. This is not just about waste in our oceans, but existential threats that plunge far beneath the surface. We must confront the very roots of this complex crisis. Dysfunctional systems maximizing profits over planetary health, exploiting finite resources, and producing reckless volumes of plastic waste. Individual actions are not enough. Systemic change is needed to stem the toxic tide at its source. We all have a stake in preserving the living oceans that sustain humankind. Subscribe and hit the like button to join us in the next episode, where we'll examine the human impacts of plastic pollution on vulnerable coastal communities. Don't miss episode 4, Human Cost. Communities at the front line, as we continue investigating the true scale of this hidden epidemic. See you next time.